Hi, my name is Brad Thomas. Welcome to Discovering Your Greatness, the video series companion to my book, The Greatness Revolution. Today I want to talk to you about the 3 R's of self-destruction. These 3 R's are responsible for most of human suffering in the world, but there's a way out of them. Koheleth, the teacher, writes, "I saw the tears of the oppressed, and they have no comforter. Power was on the side of the oppressors, and they have no comforter. And I declared that the dead, who had already died, are happier than the living, who are still alive. Neither the oppressed nor the oppressor have comfort." Why? The oppressed, well, that's obvious. But the oppressor? No comfort? Why is that? Because the oppressor has to keep oppressing, keep watching his back, keep his thumb on everyone and everything. He has to be constantly on alert, always ready. And let's face it, there's no real peace in that. The cycle of the oppressor and the oppressed is a lose-lose situation. If the oppressed rise up and overtake the oppressor, what's changed? Nothing. The oppressor still exists, and the oppressed still exist. If you have to become a monster to destroy a monster, guess what still remains? Guess what hasn't been destroyed? That's right, the monster. Nelson Mandela is an example of someone who created a win-win culture in South Africa, exchanging the cycle of oppression with a united society working together. Mandela said about the day of his release from 27 years of prison at the hands of the oppressor, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." How did he do that? First, let's look at the 3 R's of self-destruction. The first R of self-destruction is resentment. Resentment is like drinking a poison and expecting the person I resent to die. Have you ever been there? Yeah, me too. Ironically, resentment does no damage whatsoever to the person I resent. In fact, the person I resent may not even know I resent them or that they've done anything to cause my resentment. How do I overcome resentment? One good practice is to tell myself, most people are people of goodwill. While they do exist, very few people are people of ill will. A second good practice is to realize I cannot control anyone but myself. And I know how hard that can be. So, I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt. One of the sayings I live by is, "You have my trust, you earn my distrust." A third practice is to realize 99% of the time when someone says or does something to offend me, it has nothing to do with me. Often people say or do unkind things because of where they are in their life. And a little compassion on my part will go a long way in serving them and me. Resentment will never serve me. It simply infects me. And as I waste away, the one I resent remains untouched. When I resent someone, I give my power away. I no longer own my life. I'm allowing someone else's actions or words to dictate my attitude and actions. I place my life in the hands of others, and that is futile. One last thing about resentment. It has little to do with what actually happened, and often more to do with what I think happened. My interpretation of what happened rests solely in my experience and often does not see the contributing factors in the other person's life. Another good practice comes from Harper Lee's Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. He tells his children, "You never really understand a person until you consider things from his perspective, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it." In other words, practice compassion. The Dalai Lama says, "A truly compassionate attitude toward others does not change even if they act negatively or hurt you. So practice compassion when it comes to overcoming resentment. The second R of self-destruction is resistance. Not all resistance is bad. Resisting unhealthy choices or immoral practices bring us life. So that kind of resistance is positive. But I'm more concerned with the other type of resistance. With this type of resistance, no permanent win-win situation ever comes from it. You push, so I push back. Then you push harder, so I push back harder. So you push even harder, so I push back. Okay. So you get the idea, right? Gandhi said, an eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. He was talking about the ancient law employed in much of the world known as eye for eye, tooth for tooth. In other words, you take an eye from me, and I take an eye from you. The problem? You take an eye from me, I'm going to want to take both of your eyes. Resistance leads to escalation. So why do we resist? Perhaps it's our rugged individualism in the West. However, most of us are programmed to resist at a very early age, the you push, I push back rule. One major reason we may resist is the illusion of control. When we resist, we often tell ourselves we are in control. Ironically, just the opposite occurs, because those we resist determine our behavior. In reality, we only control ourselves. As long as we resist, we remain in win-lose or lose-lose situations. We must make the shift and transform our thinking. How do we overcome resistance? Lao Tzu writes, the highest good is like water. Water gives life to the 10,000 things and yet does not compete with them. It flows in places that the mass of men detest. Therefore, is it close to the way. Water encounters many obstacles as it travels downstream, but water does not resist. It sidles up to obstacles, embracing and surrounding them, changing form, adjusting while all the time possessing integrity, remaining water. It brings life to everything it touches, carrying nutrients and oxygen, all the while accomplishing its goal. It leaves the obstacles better than they were before. It does not resist anywhere it flows. Water does not control the waterways, only its way. We must behave like water. The third R of self-destruction is revenge. Martin Luther King Jr. recalled a time he and his brother A.D. were driving down a highway one night, and all the cars they were meeting were not dimming their lights. A.D. said, "I'm getting sick of this, and the next time a car comes by and does not dim its lights, I'm not going to dim mine." A.D. didn't realize that a light for a light only ends up making all drivers blind. Martin said, "Wait a minute, don't do that. Somebody has to have some sense on this road." What Dr. King realized is that someone has to be the first to let go of revenge and practice common sense and compassion before we all end up destroying one another, even ourselves. Hardness begets hardness. Violence begets violence. And compassion begets compassion. But someone has to decide, I will keep my lights dimmed. And this leads us to the 1R of self-preservation. Respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me, sings Aretha Franklin. There's a lot of talk about respect in our world. In one of the classes I taught, part of the curriculum dealt with respect. One of the questions I was supposed to ask students was, how does one get respect? It's an absurd question. When I asked this, one student said to me, I only respect those who respect me. If they don't respect me, I don't respect them. I said to the students in my class, it's a trick question. You can't get respect. You can only give, or show respect? The same student said, "Are you serious? If someone is disrespecting me, I'm not going to give them any respect." He didn't realize he was keeping his lights on high beam. I asked him, "What does someone else being disrespectful have to do with you? Whether someone shows respect or disrespect has nothing to do with you, who you choose to be, and what you choose to do. Somebody's got to have some sense." Giving or showing respect to someone, whether he or she deserves it or not, is a statement about you, not them. When you base giving respect to someone else based on their behavior, you place your power in their hands. Don't give away your power. Showing respect to others, whether they deserve it or not, is a statement about who you are. And respect is a key to overcoming resentment, resistance, and revenge. So, how do we overcome resentment, resistance, and revenge? First, make the shift in your mind and say, like Dr. King, "Wait a minute, somebody's got to have some sense." Then practice compassion, trying to see from others' perspectives while showing respect. Next, we move to the ultimate and the only way to eradicate the 3 R's of self-destruction. And we'll deal with that in the next segment. Until then, remember, walk in your greatness and have a great day.